Yo guys, Superior David here, and today there will be no deck guide because today we need to talk about Priest, which has always been a hot topic issue in the Hearthstone community, but I think as of late, people have been getting really fed up with Priest. Pro players as well as some self-identifying Priest mains have taken to Twitter to air their grievances about the class, and I just want to wade in and give my 2 cents because I believe that Priest has genuinely become a problem in Hearthstone. And notoriously, the class has been memed on for being unfun to play against, amongst a litany of other things, of course, I'm well aware, but I think there's actually some legitimacy to these recent complaints now. Personally, I've been playing against a lot more Priest on ladder lately, actually an obscene amount of Priest. I don't know what's up with this, but it's been actively ruining my Hearthstone experience. I just dread playing this class, and I know I'm not the only one here, which is why I felt compelled to make this video so we can hopefully get some changes made to Priest, because even though Priest just had this big rework just about a year ago even, I think we could say the direction that the class has been pushed in has been overall not fun, and I think that's a problem. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. What exactly is wrong with Priest, and why is it so unfun to play against? Well, personally, I think this stems from Priest having too much resource generation. This has been a complaint about Priest in the past when Galakron was in standard. The hero power literally gave you infinite value because you could just hit the button and generate a minion every turn. And I think the community believed hey, after rotation, Priest's excessive value generation problem, it would go away because they no longer had that literal infinite value button. But I think we were wrong, and things actually became so much worse. Look at this Priest deck here. This is just a standard control Priest list I ripped off of HS Replay. Literally half the cards in this deck generate another card. Half the cards in this deck generate another card. Their purpose is to just get you another card, and that's why they're in the deck. And I didn't even realize this before I started making this video, but that's ridiculous, especially considering that rotation shrunk the spell pool, so it made it easier for these value spells like Renew and Palm Reading to discover other value spells. And then Forge in the Barrens rolls around and brings with it the Venomous Scorpion, which is a good cheap minion that discovers spells. And now you bring Sethic Veil Weaver and Wandmaker into the mix here, and now Priest has multiple minions that generate spells, and those spells can more consistently get you even more spells. You can just chain value into value, and we're talking 4 copies of Apotheosis or Hysteria in a game, or 3 Soul Mirrors, stuff that you can't exactly play around because you don't know these cards exist. And frankly, you really shouldn't have to play around all these cards. And I feel this has always been a criticism of created by cards. This is nothing new here. But I think a spell that creates more issues with this iteration of Priest as opposed to other past archetypes is Raise Dead, because it's a spell that generates minions. So even though Priest technically doesn't have infinite value, they are pretty darn close because they can chain Raise Dead into these various value minions that can chain back into Raise Dead and repeat this cycle. So an example of this would be hey, you play the Venomous Scorpion and discover Renew. Well, then off of that Renew, you can discover Draconic Studies, and that Draconic Studies can get you an Onyx Mage Scribe, and then you could potentially generate a Raise Dead off of that to start this whole cycle over again with that Venomous Scorpion. I know this may sound like the ravings of a madman, but situations like this happen all the time when you play against Priest. They consistently just chain minions into spells and spells into minions and those minions into even more spells and so on and so forth for the entire game, and it's really boring to play against because often the Priest isn't advancing the game, but rather just sort of stalling you out and waiting and gathering resources until they find that one card, that one perfect Zephyrus card that blows you out of the game, and then you concede out of a combination of hopelessness, boredom, and anger. And I feel this excessive value generation is a problem that's exacerbated by Priest's access to mana cheating. I'm mainly talking about control Priest here, so you got the Palm Reading and even the Draconic Studies to some extent, but of course all of this will also apply to the Rally Priest deck. That's an even worse offender here due to the Nazmani Bloodweaver. But anyways, while Priest is generating a ton of random spells and the occasional dragon, they're cheating mana. So not only are you playing against unknown cards, but they don't even cost their full mana cost a lot of the time. And this allows Priest to more efficiently cycle through their card generation faster, to just find answers to your threats, and maybe cheat some more mana while they're at it. And then hey, if they feel they'll clear off your board too. And it's already hard enough to play around all the things that Priest can do. Like, oh, can't go wide, I'll play into Conviction. Can't go tall either with my big minions because I'll play right into Hysteria. And definitely don't want to play into Samuro Apotheosis, so I'm just gonna hold back my minions in hand. What, my opponent has Mindrender Elucia and they played all the minions I was holding back? And now you better not even think about playing any odd attack minions because apparently Priest hates those too now. But wait, it doesn't matter because Priest has access to Wave of Apathy, so all of your minions are gonna just die anyways. So now on top of all these things you need to play around when you're going up against a Priest, you also have to play around additional copies of some of these cards. And on top of that, again, they don't even cost their full mana cost. And I feel like things get to a point where it's literally impossible to play around what Priest is doing. You just feel helpless against Priest, and this just undermines like skill and decision making, because how can you like make decisions in proper plays when you don't know what your opponent has and like how much mana it even costs? It's just impossible. And it's not fun to play against ultimately. It's not fun to watch your opponent generate endless amounts of cards for 20 minutes until you concede from boredom. It's not fun to lose to a series of gotcha moments where you lose to cards you have no reasonable expectation to be playing around. And it's most certainly not fun to lose to uninteractive cards like Mindrender Lucia and Blade Master Samura, which I know I didn't go over, but I know people find these cards to be like relatively unfun, and I just want to give them a little recognition here. Okay, so hopefully after all this we can all agree like, yeah, Priest is a problem, or like if you disagree with me, you can at least like understand my perspective and just like respect my opinions here. But I think this now begs the question, what can be done? Well, these problems could eventually actually just like solve themselves as more cards are released. Like the spell pools will expand, and like especially if there are more like niche spells introduced into the Priest class, this will make these like value generation spells a lot worse because they will just sort of whiff and hit dud spells a lot of the time. But I think expecting players to like wait out this like really unfun element of the game is a bit ridiculous. So here are some more like actionable solutions. First off, we need to nerf Venomous Scorpid. Make it like either cost 4 mana or like change it to add a random spell to your hand instead of discovering, or hey, maybe even both. Like this is a card that like should not be playable in standard. It needs to be relegated to like an arena only card. In Priest, it like functions as pseudo removal due to the poisonous. So like you're getting a spell off this card, but you could also remove like a chonky sized minion with it because of the poisonous. And I feel like the discovering a spell aspect of this card makes it easier to find that Raise Dead to go infinite, or you can find like another like value Priest spell to like chain into an eventual Raise Dead. And speaking of Raise Dead, a common suggestion I see is, hey, let's make Raise Dead cost 1 mana. Why is Raise Dead 0 mana? It shouldn't cost 0 mana. 0 mana cards are bad. Brr. Which, I think this seems reasonable on its surface, but if you nerf Raise Dead to 1 mana, that means Wandmaker can get you extra copies of Raise Dead, and like that seems like an infinitely worse universe to live in, and I think it would just make the game so much more annoying because Wandmaker could potentially go infinite with itself. So if you want to nerf Priest spells, I think you really need to target Palm Reading because it's really the enabler of the truly scammy stuff Priest can do, and changing it won't impact certain spell pools unlike some of the other Priest spells, like such as Renew. Like if you make Renew cost 2 mana, that has an impact on all 1 mana spells, and like that will impact like Wandmaker as a result. So I think Palm Reading is really the card that Blizzard should be targeting here. And personally, I would give it the same treatment as Venomous Scorpid. Make it cost 4 mana, or like add a random spell to your hand instead of like discovering random spell, just to make it like less consistent. And I think this change would make the card take the card from being like a early game scam card and turn it more into like a mid to late game combo enabler. And I feel like that's a bit healthier space for this card to occupy. And I believe that these two nerfs would help Priest feel like a little bit less frustrating in the short term. Maybe you can also bump up the mana cost on like a Lucia and Samuro if you want to like hit the class a bit harder. That might be another video, but all this doesn't address the larger picture of Priest's identity, since the rework being like largely based around winning through like generating random cards, and I think the devs need to like do some course correcting here and like step away from this for Priest. Priest needs to have more win conditions outside of like random cards, and like these win conditions need to require like significant deck building requirements, so Priest can't always splash in this pseudo infinite random value package that we see like in every Priest deck at the moment. We've had this in the past with like Res Priest, Inner Fire Priest, and like even Raza Priest. Like all these decks, like they definitely had their own problems, but like at least they were like flavorful Priest decks that were for the most part like proactively working towards something, and like you like knew what they were trying to do. So like it can be done, and I'm hoping that we could get something along these lines this year with the Shadow Priest archetype that they've been teasing the past few months. But I think at this point we're just gonna have to wait and see what Blizzard does. Okay, that's all I've got on Priest for now. I know there's probably some more things that we could probably talk about with Priest, but like these are sort of like my perceptions on what I really think is wrong with the class, and I hope you get some value from this. I'm sorry if things were like a little all over the place. I just sort of like, I just got really fired up over the past 24 hours and just like really threw this video together like on the fly. So I hope things made sense. And if you got value from this video, definitely hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps me out. And, you know, maybe I'll make more of these discussion videos if you guys enjoy them. Also, don't forget to let me know what you guys think about Priest down in the comments. I know this will be probably a very colorful discussion, so I would love to hear what you guys think. Do you think the class is a problem, or do you think I'm full of it? Can't wait to read these responses. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, really do appreciate it. Stay superior, and I will see you on the next one. Later. Eat my choke. Get that poodle off your head.